Hello, everyone. I'm extremely happy to be here today discussing something which I have been working on for the last 3 decades. Mental health, fighting the stigma of mental health, and also providing treatment to those in needs. Now, there is a question I wanted to ask. Is there anybody in the audience who's never had fever, which you know is a reaction of the body to some infection? Is there anybody here who didn't have a raised body temperature ever? No. So is there anybody here who has never had some kind of reaction which they think was a little more, like a little madder, a little sadder, frustrated, or even hopelessly in love? So there have been moments in our lives when we have actually crossed our set boundaries of normality. Now, normality is not a straight line. Just like physical health is not linear. One day you just might have a stomach pain, next day, fever, or some kind of stomach infection. Mental health cannot run in a straight line. Mental health and physical health are the two sides of the same coin. And I'm sure all of you will agree to it. But the problem is, we understand all this only intellectually, but not emotionally. I have, in my 3 decades of work with mental health, has found people losing jobs after psychometric assessment was given in the office. I have found spouses, who had hidden the mental health condition from the other spouse, had gone for a divorce just because she could not talk about that, she had this kind of a problem and she needs treatment. On interview board itself, there were people who were rejected because other people knew that the person had depression. If you're asking about my personal experience, about a year back, I lost my maternal grandmother who was 93 years old. And I was extremely depressed. Even at work, I was almost tearful at times. I was told, you come on, snap out of it. 93 years, how long do you think she would have lived more? I wouldn't really make people understand, I just couldn't, that it's not her age. She was the person who brought me up. She was more than a mother to me. Matter reached to a height when I could not get any kind of help because people didn't take me seriously. Being a psychologist, I had to take help of the helplines, Now in our country, helplines are available because all I wanted to do was to share. And there was nobody to listen to me. So such is the condition of mental health and two sides of the same coin I was saying. We talk about having diabetes and cancer, but we do not talk about that I'm diagnosed with bipolar or I'm diagnosed with depression. So today we are going to talk about, I'm just going to talk about 4 misconceptions that has mental health in this condition, that people do not go for treatment, and it has become a taboo. And a little bit of these 4 misconceptions we will find in us, and because it comes from one generation to the other. And this is the cause of a non-inclusive society, where once you have a diagnosis, you are not included. So you don't want to go for the diagnosis, thinking that if you don't have the diagnosis, you don't have the problem. I can tell you about an incident which happened in a particular area in a neighborhood where a person's lively daughter of 16 years suddenly withdrew into the house and was not coming out. People started saying a lot of things about what happened to her. And nobody could walk up to the house and ask what is the problem, because they thought it was a private matter. In 6 months, the girl committed suicide. So it is our business to ask. It is right, it's absolutely right to ask, are you all right? Is there anything wrong? can I help? So starting with the misconceptions. So the first misconception being, mental health conditions are only for the weak. Hence, I am immune to mental health issues. We believe this? World Health Organization says that 1 out of 4 people will be diagnosed with some kind of mental health issue at some point in life. How can we be immune to something like this? And talking about immunity, let me tell you, I was reminded of COVID. I had taken all the vaccines, and within a week, I had COVID. 6 months later, another bout of COVID. So none of us are actually immune to anything. Any kind of mental health problem is basically has got 3 aspects: the biological or the genetic aspect, the psychological aspect, and the environmental aspect. So anything might go wrong anytime because it cannot be linear again. There are neurotransmitters in the brain which are chemicals which has to be balanced for proper thoughts, words, and behavior. But when these neurochemicals are upset, then what actually happens is there is some kind of mental health disturbances. So thinking that, nothing will happen to me, mental health issues are for the other people, is a fallacy. The second one is even more dangerous. It says that mental health conditions are permanent and cannot be treated. And hence, I was talking about this interview and the person who came for the interview, and somebody who said, I know she was diagnosed with depression, so let her be. Which actually means that they believed that no matter what kind of treatment she has gone through, she'll never be cured enough to carry out her normal activities. Today, there is evidence-based records of different kinds of therapies and life skills training, emotional regulation skills. In fact, dialectical behavior therapy actually gives you classes about emotional regulation where you can manage it. But the main thing being, you have to ask for it. You have to be aware of your symptoms and ask for help without thinking that, what will other people say? People who come to a clinic often say, don't tell my spouse, don't tell my family members. Where is the stigma? The stigma goes on and on. The Mental Health Care Act 2017, which has decriminalized suicide, also promises to take care of those who are suffering from mental health illnesses. But it is not just within the government's responsibility, but the responsibility of common people too, to do away with the myths. And remember, you too can talk about mental health. To talk about mental health, you do not always require trained professionals. Don't feel insecure. If you can suffer it, you can talk about it. I'll come to that a little later. The myth number 3, I said I'm going to talk about 4 myths only. It says that children cannot have mental health issues. What stress did they have that they will have mental health issues? The main reasons why we see children at the clinic is parenting, absolutely. So there are faulty parenting patterns, there are physical punishment, there is inconsistent disciplining, and the children suffer. We see so many children bedwetting out of anxiety, and they wouldn't know that this bedwetting, which continues beyond 3 years of age, is actually due to emotional reasons. Moreover, there are certain neurodevelopmental disorders like autism spectrum disorder, ASD, SLD, specific learning disability, or ADHD, which happens in the developmental period only, which is between birth to 18 years. So if the faster you realize the symptoms and ask for help, the better remediation can be done on the children. So this is myth number 3. And the last one, Okay, and so here is a fact which I wanted to talk about. It says 1 in 10 children aged between 5 and 16 have a diagnosable mental health problem. It can be neurodevelopmental disorder, it can be phobia, it can be examination anxiety, and it is nothing that you will just push them behind, under the carpet. They need treatment, they need counseling, they need play therapy, and they need psychoeducation so that the parents know what to do with the child. The last myth we are going to talk about, which makes unequal society a society full of prejudice, is that people with mental health condition are often violent. They are often dangerous. I'm sorry, I'm sure there are media people present here, that media often sensationalizes mental health issues. They're often portrayed as overweight, shouting, throwing things at other people. But the reality is here. It says that only 4.3 people with severe mental health, which we call psychosis, where people are not in touch with the reality, people often hallucinate, people have delusion, can be dangerous and violent, and often needs medication or institutionalization. Most of the time, mental health problems lead the person to be a victim. A schizophrenic patient is 14 times more likely to be the victim than perpetrator. You know how people walk down the road and you take a brick and throw at him? We have seen that. So we have to get over this also, that the person might just turn violent because a person has a condition. Now, you will find that whatever you think about the mental health issues will be covered by these 4 myths. And the fact that you will not take me for a job, or the fact that you will stay clear of a person with a mental health issue, can fall into this 4 kind of myths. What do we do about it? India, India is a huge population. 14% of the population, our survey, national survey is saying, need some kind of mental health intervention. Now, there are many problems here. Number 1, lack of awareness. We do not even know whether this kind of symptom is something I need to discuss. We are ashamed of the symptoms. We do not talk about it. I might be feeling very sad, and at office I might not be able to tell it to my colleagues because they're going to discuss it. Okay? Second, I do not know where to go for treatment. So there is urban-rural divide too. And also, some mental health treatment can be costly unless you go to government hospital or use the helplines. I'm talking about helplines because I find them very, very helpful. So we find that in this condition, there are things which has to be taken up by the common people, people who suffer from mental health issues, people who have mental health issues in the family, or people who are likely to help people at offices, etc. First is educate yourself about mental health issues. This is not the area of the professionals only. In fact, we do not have enough number of professionals. So we need to educate ourselves regarding signs and symptoms. People who are talking about killing themselves actually attempt. It's not that, she's just saying, I don't think she's going to do. Oh, she's a brave girl. She's not going to try to attempt. Fact that I'm saying that I don't want to live, you need to probe. You need to say we need to have a conversation. And you need to do a course on mental health first aid. Just like, first aid for physical health is open for anybody. Mental health first aid courses are available for all of you. I think every institution should have one person trained in mental health first aid, what to do in case of psychiatric emergency. Because every time you can't have somebody come up, or you can't have a trained professional on board. Second is listen. When you are heard, you start healing. So you need to develop the listening skills, and talking, what you're telling to the person is very important, because you will find that talking also brings about neurochemical changes in the brain. Even neural patterns are changed. So what you tell to the person in distress is extremely important. Third is practice self-compassion, something like gratitude journal, or these days we have mental health journals. Unless you have a good mental health, you're going to be affected by what the person is saying. So to be a support to another person, you need to have self-compassion. You need to take care of yourself. Involving yourself in advocacy. Advocacy can be online. You can have a page on mental health. You can have blogs on mental health. You can talk about symptoms of mental health. You can interview people in mental health. So advocacy is also another way to spread the awareness and join the team. Last, stand up against stereotypes. Every time you hear somebody call another person mad, crazy, not appropriate, stand against it. You have to raise your voice to be heard. Even if nothing you can change, the fact that you had stood up against it, there is some little change, the butterfly effect, things are going to change. Thank you very much. Dalai Lama said, love is absence of judgment. I just hope that my talk will actually be a catalyst to a lot of positive action in making the society more inclusive and more tolerant. Thank you very much.